Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates. Today I'm sitting down with my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Jesse Burrell, Mr. Data King. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks so much for having me on. I've been bugging you for months to get on your, you know, crazy podcast that you have so many extreme people that are so important ahead of me.
So I know you want to give me a hard time about that, but I had plans where I wanted to travel to Phoenix and do an in-person because I love you so much. I wanted to fly to Phoenix to personally like interview everyone at Batch in the office. And then this little worldwide pandemic thing happened. So it kind of changed things a little bit. But I'm glad we got to connect and get on here. You and I talk all the time. And, I consider you a friend, but also a mentor at times. You kind of give me a kick in the ass at different points of times and tell me what I'm messing up on. So looking forward to what you got to share today. Most people know you as like the guy at Batch Skiptracing, right? But,
Yeah.
like you said right before, hey, I do a lot of investing as well. And hey, I did a lot of deals before Batch was ever a thing. So let's go back to the beginning. How did you get started in real estate investing? How did you get your start?
That's a great question, and I got a pretty different story than probably most do. Is I was finishing up school. I wanted to be in golf, so I wanted to be a golf instructor, and I started doing my internships, and I soon realized I don't like to wake up at 4 a.m. I think I always knew that, but I was like, there has to be a better way. And my friend Danielle Kroll, she's hooked up in like 2012 working for this real estate investor. The market crashed and there's a lot of opportunity out here. And she was working with him. And I was just complaining about, not knowing where I wanted to go and do some type of sales job. And she's like, hey, I think we're actually hiring. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but do you want to come work with us? And basically, they would flip homes and then ran a property management company. So this guy was Israeli, had a bunch of money from friends back there. They would do some buy and holds for them. So they pretty much just wholesale the property to these investors and then stick tenants in there. And then he was also flipping. So I kind of became an acquisition manager. I would scour the MLS during that time, looking for pre-foreclosures and short sales. And then I had to quickly learn how to underwrite, which I didn't know what that meant then, but I was basically having to figure out how much the house needed, how much we needed to buy it for, and what we could sell it for. So I was an acquisition manager, I guess, before there was acquisition managers, and I got to do that for a year, which was pretty cool.
Oh man, the days where you could buy investment properties off the MLS. Don't you miss those days?
I mean, I didn't make money doing it, so not really.
Well, I made a lot of money when I got started because that's how we got started. The guru that we learned how to do this from, he taught us, you go find deals off the MLS and you make low ball offers, and we made quite a bit of money doing that. So now that quickly went away once we realized what direct to seller marketing and things like batch skip tracing and stuff like that. Once we learned about those things, that went away. But so you became an acquisitions manager. Where did kind of your story go from that point?
So then he exited the market kind of a little early and started liquidating in late 14, maybe. I don't remember when I started on my own. It was 14 or 15, one of those years. But I got my real estate license and I was still able to find a few deals. So I was working with some people that were doing some flips just as an agent. And then kind of stumbled across Sean Terry and I was like, how is he not selling these on the MLS? I'm super confused.
Right.
And then, kind of went down the wholesaling rabbit hole, and direct mail back then was obviously the main source for marketing. And Danielle, and Jared decided to partner up and create a wholesale company. So we started shoving bandit signs in the ground every night at 2 a.m. and got a printer, started printing stuff off and, self-stuffing envelopes, and we're doing 5,000 at a time. I mean, we're up till 3, 4 in the morning doing whatever it took to kind of get the company off the ground. And luckily we had some success quickly. We got like a $200,000 assignment, our third deal, which really helped, start funding more marketing. And we were very early right after that to adapt to the pay-per-click model. And that's when we went virtually. We'd blanket the whole entire United States for buying homes. and your cost per click is really, really cheap. So unfortunately, I don't think that's the best model. We'll probably get into that later on doing it that way, because I'm learning how to underwrite new markets, and buying right is very difficult. But we made it work for quite a while, and then we started scaling down markets from there. And then soon after that, it was pretty cool. Danny and Jared started dating, and we started going our separate ways a little bit. We decided to part ways, and I started my own operation with like 3 acquisition reps, and they were just sitting there banging the phones, cold calling, and I was flipping homes myself from there. And then that led into meeting Annie and Evo and where I am now with all the other stuff.
So, it's funny, and I know this story that you just told kind of spans over the course of several years there, but you talked about buying deals off the MLS, you talked about doing direct mail, you talked about bandit signs, you talked about pay-per-click, and then you transitioned to cold calling. I mean, at that point in time, you were having to transition your marketing techniques pretty consistently just to stay up with the times. And do you think that kind of like led you to the path of where maybe made you more interested in doing something like batch skip tracing?
That came from losing TLO, actually. And then, I'm heavy on cold calling and data at the time. Data is king.
Right.
And I talked to Evo, who I met at a mastermind, and he's like, hey, I have this really good data source, and he hooked me up from there, and I started testing it, and I was like, whoa, this is great data. I have a lot of people that are getting off TLO or don't want to commit to monthly things, and you couldn't batch there. You'd have to like manually skip trace with most accounts, and if you did batch, you get flagged and kicked out pretty much immediately. So we figured out a way to pretty much, kind of get rid of that commitment and have people batching large volumes. And I just started reaching out to friends. They started liking it. It snowballed. It wasn't meant to really be a business. It was a side hustle for a while. And then once we gained just a little momentum, 3 weeks later, I'm calling Brent Daniels being like, who do your students use for skip tracing? And hopped him on board, and he kind of gave that some rocket fuel. And I think we just started pouring gasoline on the fire from there.
Is it okay if you tell the story how y'all came up with the name Batch Skip Tracing? Because I know you told me about it with Evo and all that. Is that something you're willing to share the story about?
I mean, literally, Annie and Evo are the most literal people in the world. And he's like, but you're Batch Skip Tracing. And I'm like, okay. Like, we'll call it batchskiptracing.com.
I wish every business that you could come up with, you would come up with that literal of a name and the actual like domain is available. I mean, you had to be like, dude, I think we're onto something here when you looked up is batchskiptracing.com available, and it was.
He already had it. He already had the domain. So I had nothing to do with it. And I was just like, okay, that's what it is. And and a lot of people are like, hey, I need a batch skip trace. So I'd say it's a pretty good name for sure. And the URL cost us, $7 or something when we got it. So
right,
can't complain there.
So I think one of the things that's really interesting about y'all's like journey together, and by y'all, I mean you and Annie and Evo, is that when y'all first started batch skip tracing, y'all were still doing individual deals as far as real estate. Y'all weren't partners there, but now you are partners. Kind of talk about that journey and how that decision was made, because there's a lot of people in this industry that have failed partnerships, and there's greed and ego and pride where it's like, no, I've been doing this for years. Why do I now want to give up equity and become partners with you and everything? How was that decision made?
That was a really hard decision for me to make, for the simple fact that I had a partnership that failed, and it strained the friendships I had with Danny and Jared for a while. So I was really hesitant to ever partner with somebody again. So, I mean, we were doing the batch skip tracing for over a year, and I was just like, this feels right. It seems right. But, I have 100% of a wholesale operation. They each have 50%. I'm giving up, 67% of my wholesale side. I was like, I obviously had to see a lot of opportunity on the batch side to have that make sense, because I was running a very successful wholesale operation on my own. And, we kind of just had to talk it out. It was probably a couple months, of really figuring out, can this work or can it not? But the biggest struggle was we had two separate offices, and it was really tough doing meetings and getting together and collaborating on trying to grow the batch side when we didn't have that time being together. That's the separate spaces is what killed us.
So the one thing that I think is interesting about this is when y'all came together, you had to then decide who's going to have what roles in the wholesaling business and who's going to have the roles in batch. How did y'all come to the determination of who was going to do what for both businesses?
Yeah, that was a great question. And that's kind of how they sold me is Annie's like, hey, I'll take over the wholesale side. You can focus growing the batch. And, I've been wholesaling for 5 years at that time on a, nonstop grind. And I'm like, okay, I could work on growing this and I'm going to make money. So I have to do, a lot less work to get paid on that side. And I just wasn't passionate about running a wholesale operation anymore. And I've just been through a lot with, two companies already. And she took the reins, and that's kind of what swayed me to be like, okay, I'm willing to give up, the equity. But we combined our teams, and luckily I had a strong team that got to come over and thrive even further, because they're definitely better at systems and processes. And I'm, more on the sales side of things and managing I guess you would say, the team and making sure everybody's excited and hitting goals. And I just think that learning how we all fit together was very much key to me knowing that we would be successful. And I think we're all so different that anything we decide to do moving forward, I just see it as rocket fuel. That book's a great book to, integration and visionary roles. And I'm so lucky to have two people that are both more on the integration side, and I push on the visionary side, because there's a lot of visionaries. So I'm very, very lucky to have such incredible integrators, and I'm thankful every single day.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that up. So do you actually view like Annie as the integrator for the real estate business and Evo as the integrator for batch, and you're just the visionary for both?
More or less, that would kind of be the thought of that. But Annie has dove into some of the integration side. So me and Evo's really good at building the systems, and he has a little bit of visionary in him too. But Annie's really good at setting up the SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, and how to train someone in a new position. And she's been really helping us on that side of things as we're growing and having to put people into roles. And we're still learning on, how to create the best customer service for, the products and batch skip tracing side of things. So she's very helpful on that side, to where that's kind of where me and Evo lack. And that's her strength. So she helps a lot on the batch product side as well.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to come be a guest on Steve Tranq's podcast. And when we came out to Phoenix, you reached out to me and you're like, dude, you're coming to my office. You're going to have to spend the day with us. We ended up spending 2 full days in the batch office. And I want to talk about that atmosphere that you guys have created, because quite frankly, I mean, I think it is one of the most amazing atmospheres, culture experiences in somebody else's office that I've ever witnessed. Talk about like the collaboration within the office, because it is Batch's office, but you have other real estate investors, other influencers in that office. What is that like, and how did that come about? I mean, quite frankly, y'all are all kind of competitors at some level. How did you all decide, like, hey, let's just all be in one office together? Whose idea was that, and how did it come about?
That was mine. And I don't know. I really liked being around Brent, and he seemed to not love the space that he was in. And then, Pace is just a ball of energy and great to be around. And we all have just like our Phoenix crew, as a lot of people know. For you that don't know us, is we don't see each other as competition. If we collaborate and we're all doing the right things, with tides, all boats rise. And that's kind of how we see things, is if we're helping each other and being authentic and sharing real secrets, it helps all of us in the long run, because we're all helping each other's companies. And just being around those people and putting ideas and bouncing stuff off each other. I mean, our business has thrived, I can't even tell you how many times over, because of the other owners we have, and they all have great people they work with. And the culture that we've created with the team members we have is it's a special experience, and I get excited to go to work every day, and I think everybody does, because the energies Brent Daniels brings, and Cash Flow Chris, and Rafael Cortez, and Pace Morby. We have a lot of people. Pace has multiple offices, so he uses it more for him to come collaborate with us. He rents a space just to collaborate and use the studio. That shows how important it is to us.
Right. And it was really cool when I was there. I didn't know what was going on at the moment, but you had your team, they, it's kind of out in the open, and they're calling, and some of it was like customer service for Batch, but you also had someone that was doing acquisitions on a deal, and they literally locked the deal up on the phone and walked back and sold the deal to Brent Daniels right there. And y'all made $35,000. And you're like, you come around and you're like all cheering in my face. You're like, I just made 35 G's. And then we didn't even have to leave the office. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I need this back at home. Like, this is crazy. And that's just a super awesome atmosphere, and the thing about it is it's not, I mean, it was your vision, and you came up with it, but you found the people that fit well in that culture. And now, I mean, I feel like there's a new podcast, a new show coming out like once a week from the Phoenix crew out there. That's what I call you guys. But it's like y'all are always finding ways to add value to the community and to each other and collaborating together. It's an awesome atmosphere. And just, if you're ever in Phoenix, I'll say maybe I shouldn't give an open invitation, but you should swing by the Batch office and just experience it in person for sure.
No, on Fridays, Brent has all of his students come. Anybody's welcome on Fridays. Literally, our team members are working a half day, and the second half of the day is to help students and people that come in and want to learn more about all the stuff that we're doing.
That's awesome. And like I said, man, I mean, we weren't even coming out to Phoenix to necessarily see you guys. I mean, you invited us. I mean, we were coming out to be a part of Steve's podcast, and then it just turned out to where I look back at that trip and just I had never met Brent Daniels in person. And now, I talk to Brent on a regular basis. I mean, he's one of the most incredible guys in the industry. It strengthened our relationship. Now we do a lot with you guys. I mean, we basically have transitioned our entire business over to everything Batch services that you guys have done. So I want to touch base on that a little bit, because I keep calling you, Batch Skiptracing. That's how it started, but Batch is a lot more than that now. You guys are basically becoming the Amazon of real estate investor services. So talk about like everything that you've added over the past couple of months and the things that you've got in the pipeline that are coming down. Because I mean, you guys are basically becoming a one-stop shop for real estate investors.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the goal. Is it just started as Skiptracing, and we didn't think anything more, and people just wanted to, hey, like, are you gonna have texting coming out, RVM, which is ringless voicemail, or all these different little things. A dialer. People even said that, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. That costs hundreds upon hundreds, even millions of dollars to do stuff like that. And I'm like, no way. And it just started with list stacking. As I was struggling with the list stacking provider I was using at the time. And I said, Evo, can you build something? And he was working with some developers. And he's like, sure, I'll have it for you in 2 weeks. And 6 months later, we have something to sell. And I was like, well, that didn't really solve my wholesale problem, but it's cool. We have another business. And then Batch Lead Stacker at the time is what it was called. And that's a great data management tool to stack your list and keep everything in one place instead of having 1,000 Excel files. So it was a great platform to start adding other things on. So we've since then added, text blasting, and then soon we have lists coming out, something similar to PropStream, to where, now you'll be able to basically, import your data, and then you'll be able to get new lists from us in there. You could skip trace it in there, and then you could send it to your texting, and then RVM's coming soon. And then, God behold, we have a dialer coming out in the middle of the summer too. So you can literally, you don't have to import and export stuff anymore. You can literally just push, that data or that campaign you want to do into RVM or into text messaging. So anything telecommunication, I mean, we're going to be that place to where it just doesn't make sense for you not to use us. And that's the ultimate goal. And we want to make sure you have the best products out there. So we spend quite a bit of money on developing and continuing to make sure that we're on the cutting edge side of all these different things. And it's a lot of work, but we help people get deals. And at the end of the day, if we're not helping people get deals, they're not going to use our products. So unless I'm making sure that you're making money, I don't have a company. And that's the number one thing that's important to me, is making sure that the real estate investors that put their trust and work with us are able to do is get deals.
You know, you should come out with something where you can pull comps on Batch too, so I don't ever have to leave Batch.
Oh, that's on its way as well.
Awesome. You know what? The only thing that you're going to be missing at that point in time is like a DocuSign feature where I can send the contract out. Is that like going to be 2021?
No, so we're not going to do the CRM side. We're pretty much everything up to pushing it into, whatever CRM, whatever tool you use to. We're helping you create the leads, and then you push them into whatever system. The CRM, that will not happen. I already told Evo that's a hard no forever. That's a lot of customer service, and it's already a lot. I don't want to add that to the part, because I think people should be able to have the choice to use whatever they want for that side, because each business is very different. I don't want to put you in a box for your customer relationship management software.
So going back to the relationship between you and Evo, how often are you the one that's coming up with these new systems that you want to come out? And how often is it that Evo's like, hey, while I was working on this one system, I realized it's pretty easy for me to just go ahead and create something else that we could sell? How does that play out?
So the list stacking was my idea. And then I think we collectively just wanted to do the texting. I don't know who thought of that first. And then the list and the dialer was his idea. So he's kind of see it evolved and see, like, we're doing all these different things that, like, the development side would work if we added this in, or like tying things together. So that's kind of where I'm talking about his visionary side. He has that too, and like that dude, him and Pace Morby are like both aliens to me. Like their work ethics and how good they are at doing things. I mean, they all are. Brent Daniels is probably the most incredible person I've ever met. He is by far mentored me. When someone says, "Who's your mentor?" I'm like, I'm so lucky I don't have to pay for it, because, well, I mean, I pay him money too, but for affiliate stuff. But he's been such a big part of helping me grow. And then Steve Tranq is like my dad I go to for personal advice. And it's just, I have such a great circle around me to where I think we all mentor each other in different ways. And that's another part of the success of it.
Yeah, and I love all those guys except for Steve.
Hold on. I can't leave out Jamil. He is my spiritual mentor, and I cannot leave Jamil out. He is by far one of the other. I have just so many great people in my life. I'm very fortunate, including you as well, obviously.
I appreciate that, man. And like I was saying, I agree with all of them. I love everybody out there except for Steve Tranq. Until May 25th, we're not friends because we're competing against each other in the Super Closers Olympics. And we have a little bit of a beef anyways, because we each have podcasts. And I give Steve a hard time all the time, because I say, you might have a bigger audience fan base, but I have better content. And so he laughs pretty hard at me. But Steve's a great guy, and it's just incredible the atmosphere that you guys have out there. And I think it's I will say this. I want to give you props, like, out there for everybody to hear, and the fact that you have spearheaded a lot of that and bringing that collaboration together. I don't think you get the credit that you rightfully deserve for being a part of that. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe you do, but I've seen it, man. I've seen how you are with like me and our friendship. You are a very tenacious person. And you're like, hey, man, like, this is a vision that I see. And there was times where, like, you were talking to me about how we could work together on different things. And I was like, well, I'm already using this other system. And you were kind of like, yeah, but RJ, but think about this. This is where Batch is headed. And don't you want to be a line where instead of having to have 7 or 8 different systems, you can just work with me and we can work on this together and collaborate. Like if you need something, just tell me. And that was a really awesome moment for me because I saw that like not only did you want my business and but you also wanted my feedback of your product. And that's really, I mean, over the course of several months, it led to Titanium basically transferring everything over to Batch. And I just got to witness how you handled those relationships. And it's awesome to be able to witness what you've been able to create out there in Phoenix with everybody. So with that being said, I want to go back to the real estate side of things a little bit because Batch is awesome, and I think at this point in time, majority of people know about Batch Skiptracing, but I wanted to showcase those other services that you guys are coming out. But I mean, dude, you've done over 500 deals virtually, wholesaling, but you guys are doing a lot more than just wholesaling right now. Y'all have branched out into the new development side of things, and so I know that was newer for you guys when I was there in December. And you guys are doing projects with Chris Ontiveros and Pace Morby. What does that look like right now with what's going on with COVID? I mean, has that kind of slowed things down? Has it impacted the process? What does that look like right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Pace, the issue with with Pace Morby, we're doing 51 manufactured homes with land. Like it's already a developed community, but I got a hold of a guy on a cold call, so make sure you TCP, Brett Daniel style. And we were able to lock up like the last 50 lots that never got developed. They bought them in like 707 and it crashed, and they just sat on them until it made sense for someone to buy again. But the process, the manufacturing side on the manufactured homes has slowed down, but we got our first one up for sale like 4 weeks ago and we got a full price offer. So, I think we have 2, 3, and 4 sitting there that we're putting together, but it's just maybe going to slow down the pipeline process of, moving all those forward. And then on the other side for the new development, we're doing a 50-unit apartment and also doing 25 single family homes in Phoenix. It just kind of slowed down the permit process and the city reviews and stuff like that, but it's still cruising along. And I kind of like to see what it looks like, and I'm getting a better picture of what the market's going to look like. And I think it's going to be fine. There's still no inventory out here in Phoenix. It's still really low, but I'm not going to base decisions on fear. I'm going to use logic and decision, but I'm not going to just fire sale everything because what if this bad thing happens? Like I'm going to see the project through.
Well, and specifically talking about the Phoenix market right now, I mean, I already saw Open Door has opened up where they're going to start buying again in the Phoenix market. I mean, if that's not a sign of, hey, at least for the Phoenix market, it's going to come out on the other end of this pretty unscathed.
And that's the only market they're doing. So like they're smarter than me. They're like, I'm good with Phoenix. I'm like, I think I'm good too.
Exactly. And that's my point is like, they're not going to open back up in Phoenix if there's any concern whatsoever. I mean, they pulled the plug on everybody across the country in one day. And so now they're slowly turning it back on. They said they're going to open up some other markets over the course of the next couple of months. But right now, Phoenix is the only market that they plugged right back into. So yeah, that talks about the health of that market for sure. What about outside of that project? That's the manufactured homes. Do you have any just single family homes that you're currently building?
Yeah, that's what I said. I have the 25 single family homes and then a 50-unit apartment that we're working on. And those are still in the permit stages. So those were so far out. We're just getting through the permits. Like worst case scenario, we could have sold it with the plans and all the things and probably broke even or even made a little bit. But we still plan on, we have money raised and we still plan on finishing those projects through. And it's really exciting to learn and lucky to have, Chris, who you mentioned earlier, and so did I. He's just so good at this new development stuff and new construction. He's another, and he's in the office too. He's one of the smartest people I know and one of the greatest dudes besides being a 49er fan. I love the guy.
For sure, man. So I want to get your opinion on something. Right now there's a lot of people that have been impacted by this. Maybe that they're 9 to 5. Maybe they lost that job. Maybe maybe they were looking at getting into wholesaling and they just lost their job. And now it's like, well, hey, I want to get into this. And, you provide data, all of these other sources. You're doing new construction. You've done 500 deals. I know you gave a great tip on a call that we did for Next Level, a webinar. But for the people right now that might be wanting to get started in the wholesaling right now, what would be the tip that you would get on how to get started during the time that we're in right now, these unprecedented times where, some markets were hit pretty hard. I mean, you and I are luckily, we've talked about this. We're pretty lucky. I mean, our markets were not hit as bad as some of these other locations, but to the people that want to get started right now, what would you say to them?
So yeah, I got to talk to this on the what was it? It was the panel that we had for Next Level Flipping, and Brent got to tee me up because I didn't know what I was going to say, and then Brent's like, Jesse has something really good, and I was like, I know what he's talking about, because he's like, you have all this good content and you keep it to yourself. Be more on social media, and I'm like, too busy. But so there's a couple ways. Is now's a better time than ever to get in. One, if you do have some money saved and you could spend some dollars on marketing, a lot of people have been running for the hills and are scared. So there's a lot less investors that are reaching out to people. And then the homeowners understand that we're in a different situation. So you have an opportunity to help a homeowner and make yourself some money. The buyers are the hardest thing to find right now, not the sellers. So if you could find some good buyers and still help a homeowner, you have a very good opportunity to make some money. And then if you don't have money, or maybe you lost your job, this is the best tip, is I think that you should reach out to all the big wholesalers in your market and ask them for their dead leads and work out some type of split. So then you have free marketing and you can sit there and learn on someone else's leads. And I'm sure they're inclined to want to help you a little bit too, for the simple fact that they're going to make money and they don't have to do anything. This is old stuff that no one's touching right now. So I think that's a great way for a lot of people to bootstrap and get started if they don't have money. I don't think you really have an excuse. It's time. And if you're willing to put the time in, you're going to be successful in real estate investing, and especially wholesale if you have a decent skill set and are willing to learn.
So I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to use the example. When you gave that tip during the webinar, I literally pulled my cell phone off my counter and I sent you a text and I said, do you have any dead leads in Phoenix? And you're like, of course I do. And you thought I was joking.
I did.
You thought I was joking. But where I had to put myself in is, look, I'm humble at times, and I have to realize, like, we struggle in Phoenix. We have a branch there, and we have struggled, and it's been really frustrating for me because I view Phoenix very similar to DFW, where we've thrived in DFW. So I'm like, why are the things that I'm doing in DFW working and they don't work in Phoenix? And so when you gave that tip, I was like, look, this is a great opportunity for me to reach out to my buddy and say, hey, do you have any dead leads? This is your tip. You just told me what to do. So I'm going to humble myself and I'm going to be the new wholesaler, right? I'm the new wholesaler in Phoenix. And once you realize I was actually serious, because I kept bugging you about it, and you're like, I don't know, ask Annie. And then Annie called you, and she's like, you called me. You're like, are you actually serious? Like, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do it.
I was literally drinking wine in my hot tub laughing when you're like, haha. And I'm like, shut up, RJ. And then you're like, no, for real. Like, I need to work on Phoenix, and I'd rather work on free leads and burning up a bunch of money. And I'm like, all right, well, deal with Annie, because I don't deal with wholesale side. So,
right.
But she thought I was joking, and I thought you were joking. And then you're like, no, for real. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to save people, I'll give them my dead leads or go find them from somebody else. I better give them to you. So
right. So Annie sent me over 2,500 leads, and I'm going to keep up with this. So I'm actually working these leads myself. And funny enough, I know not everybody has this opportunity, but I just threw those into Batch texting. So he's actually getting paid off of me working his dead leads, and which is hilarious to me. But I'm going to work on myself. And at times as leaders, we have to realize like, hey, we have to get in the trenches ourselves and find out what's going on. And that's what I'm doing. Like, so for so long in Phoenix, I was like, all right, guys, here's the plan. I cast the vision. Now y'all go do it. And then it was like, well, we got shit results. So then I was like, here's another vision. Here's another plan. Well, now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I need to go in there and I need to find out what exactly is going on. And so I'm going to work these leads. I know y'all gave me detailed notes on them. I know that y'all have talked to them. So it's an actual lead. This is not like some, hey, here's a phone number that we skip trace and we've never talked to them before. No, this is an actual lead. And so I'm going to work them myself and I'm going to see what's going to happen. And we're going to do a 50-50 split on it. Going back to previous videos that I've talked about in the past, I feel like that's how this should be done. It should always be that way when you joint venture with somebody. And this is going to be an opportunity for us to not only monetize dead leads that nobody in their office is going to be touching, and it gives us an opportunity to work something that's a little bit warmer than just going and pulling a list and starting over from scratch. So,
and having to pay for it.
Go ahead.
I said, and having to pay for it. That's the nicest part.
Yeah. So I hope somebody out there realizes that, like, when Jesse gives these tips, and I give tips on the podcast of these webinars that we do, like, we actually mean this shit. Like, we actually live by this, and I'm actually personally doing it myself. Like, when I was on that panel, I mean, I was listening and looking for tips myself. Even though at times I was talking and giving out tips, I was looking for advice. Like, Jesse, what would you do? And I had to realize, like, hey, we don't have money to go out and do a huge campaign like we do in other markets. So I'm going to go out and pretend like we're the broke wholesaler starting off from scratch. So thank you, buddy. Hopefully we get something from that, because I'm going to work my tail off on those and see what I can come up with.
But that just shows your leadership qualities, and you lead by example. So, I still take sales calls. I still sign people up for our products. I still give them demos. I can't be removed from it because I need to, it's just like you. I need to make sure I understand the whole process of, what our company is doing. And if I'm not willing to do it, I can't expect somebody else to do it. So I think that's just one of the most amazing qualities in you too, is, we don't have all this pride. And I think a lot of people want to be the CEO and do all these things. If you just think you're going to be a CEO of a wholesale company, pardon my French, but you're out of your fucking mind. Like, it's not possible. It's a very high paying job, and you could have people doing other things for you. But I don't know a single person that runs a wholesale company that is not still heavily involved. There's maybe a few, but that's few and far between, and they're the exception, not the norm. But this is how you make millions of dollars. But you have to do the work too, is kind of my point.
Exactly. So on that note, I'm going to say something, and I want to get your final thoughts before we wrap up, because I know you got to jump on another call here in a second. When you bring that up, I say this all the time, and I actually mean it. Like, I'm honored in the fact that I have a podcast that people actually listen to. People tell me that they gain value from this, and it's helped them in their journey. And I'm honored to be able to interview people from across the country and that have very successful businesses. But I'm telling you guys, there have been times where I've had guests on here that have told me, like, hey, I've worked myself out of my business and I'm the CEO and I don't have to be involved anymore. And then sure enough, 6-9 months later, I'm reaching out to them. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Dude, I fucking fired everybody and I'm back in the trenches now. This is not an easy business as what sometimes people lead it to believe. You've said it best sometimes. What did you say? It's not a hard business, but it's not an easy business, or something along those lines. It's a great business to make money, but you still have to be in there and you have to be paying attention to it. It's not like something that you can just turn the faucet on and it's going to perform forever. So keep your thumb on the pulse of your business. And Jesse, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you've been giving me a hard time about getting on the podcast for a long time, man. I should have had you on a long time ago, but what are your final thoughts before we sign off?
My final thoughts are probably, I try and say this almost on every podcast, is surround yourself with the right people. I've been lucky enough to do that, and I did it on purpose, and they've helped me so much. Without them, I wouldn't be anywhere in any of my businesses close to as far as I've been without helping people and then accepting help from other people as well. And I think that if you surround yourself with people that push you, that motivate you, and that are really good people, I really think sky's the limit. And it's an incredible feeling to be a part of, a group of people and have so many friends that have helped me along the way, and I've been able to help as well. So I think collaboration is the most important. Or as Pace and Jamil and Brent say, squad up. Like, start creating your own squads. Make sure you find the right people. Don't, if they're the wrong person, get the heck out of there, because your mindset and who you surround yourself with is the things that you think about, and that's what you manifest, and that's ultimately what you become.
Well, buddy, you've surrounded yourself with the right people. You've created an amazing atmosphere in your office and also in the city and the market of Phoenix. Um, you inspire me on a regular basis, but not only on top of that, what y'all are doing with Batch and how you are impacting so many different real estate investors by constantly improving yourself. I mean, as just an entrepreneur that has nothing to do with real estate investing, that's beyond inspiring. I mean, there's times where I talk to you and I'm like, I come back in and I'm like, how does he have the time to keep coming up with these things? Like, what are they, when do they sleep? When do these people out there, they get, not work? So
It's our team, brother. We have an incredible team as well. I don't think I got to mention that. Sorry to interrupt you, but we have such an amazing team, and I don't know if I emphasize that enough, to where the culture that we've created and the team members that we have are the reason why we're successful. It's not the owners, it's the team, 100%.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today, guys. Remember, like I say every single week, if you're listening on iTunes, make sure you give me a 5-star rating. If you want to give me below 5 stars, go give it to Steve Tranq or somebody else. I don't like 5 stars. I only like 5 stars. So give me that. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. That's our episode, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, Jesse.
Appreciate you, sir.